that my cat has decided to walk in front of the camera. We are live here to chat about the women that made TV great this week. I'm so excited to be back with Kate and Carey. Also, if I sound weird, there's like this weird echo in my ear. I don't know. We're doing our best here. But Kate and Carey, put me out of my audio misery. Take it away. How have you been for the last couple weeks?
I've been
How you
good.
been?
We tackled Dragon Con, and now we're still kind of recovering from that and catching up on all the things we missed while we were there.
Yeah.
I've been in She-Hulk bliss myself, so that's how I've been spending my last couple of weeks.
It's so good. Okay, spoilers. Like, obviously, we're going to talk about She-Hulk, but in case you didn't know, I just think it's like one of the best shows that is out right now. I'm just living my best life. Before we get into that, before we get into Madison with two N's and a Y, but it's not where you think, and Wongers, Kate, is there any news that we have missed for the past like 5 billion years since we last chatted?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna run through them real quick. So, a movie on Netflix this Friday is called Do Revenge. We've previously talked about it. It sounds kind of like this generation's kind of Heather's. The movie Empress. I'm not sure if it's going to be an English movie, but it looks good from what I have seen. It's about Sicily of Austria. It's going to be on Netflix on September 29th. Uh, there's going to be a BBC show starring Emily Blunt. It's actually going to be a Western, but the trailers do look really good, called The English. And we know that on October 6th, we'll be getting news of Vox Machina Season 2.
Are you beside yourself?
I am beside myself, and you will see later tonight, it just only gets worse.
I don't even follow like Critical Role. Like, I watched Vox Machina. Y'all heard about that, but I just get so excited every live just to hear like the updates and all the theories and the characters, and I just kind of like live vicariously through Kate's reviews. Any other news? The Zendaya Emmy?
Two times.
2 times. You also mentioned that movie, the Do Revenge one. I think that's from the creator of Sweet Vicious, which was a show I loved back in the day. Was it not?
I'm not sure, but yeah, okay.
I should say that with more confidence. It is from Jen Caitlin Robinson, the creator of Sweet Vicious, a show that only got 1 season and should have got like 5,000 seasons. And she pretty much exclusively makes these like girls gone violent in a feminist way type of film. She makes stuff that seems like I'm the target audience, to put it mildly. Well, speaking of Girls Gone Wild, let's talk about She-Hulk. Okay, who's current on She-Hulk right now? Well, let's just rotate Carey up to the top, and Kate, listen and enjoy and watch She-Hulk. Carey, what have you been thinking of She-Hulk since we last chatted about it? Because I think last time we talked about it, only 1 or 2 episodes were out, and I'm not sure I had even started it last time we chatted.
Yeah, it was. I think we talked after the first episode had come out, and it was sort of what you expect from the first episode. Hey, we need to sort of establish what world she's living in and that sort of thing, which is great. And now we're up to episode 4. Jen Walters, She-Hulk. It's just an absolute. It's fun. It's breezy. I mean, it has a fair amount of moments of action, but it's just a fun show, man. And that's really the best thing I can say about it off the bat. It's just so much fun, and you can tell the people who are writing it are having fun. The people on the show are having fun. And truth of the matter is, people who watch it who aren't having fun, that's probably a them problem, not a show problem.
It really is. Like, I can't imagine being so sad and disconnected from joy that a show like She-Hulk isn't just like a ongoing every second viewer pleasure as it is for me. And I'm not just talking about kind of the cheesy moments that I loved, like Megan the Stallion showing up. Loved it. 100 out of 10. Very cheesy, like very like cheesy comedy, whatever. Everything else too, like the interpersonal dialogue being laced with like some level of like comedy and joy, even in like dark situations of like she loses her job and these are like hard ethical decisions from time to time, like just putting some level of like wit and interest and personality absolutely saves this. And it's so Marvel done right. Marvel does this whole like kind of a little bit cheesy, a little bit, bright and flashy, like ensemble often team ups. And sometimes to me it still comes across as like a little like hokey or a little like we're trying way too hard to not approach anything dark. This show does it right, where the closer they get to something dark, the more they make sure to put some level of like joy and fun and like the witty micro dialogue that gets you through, even if it's like this is tough to look at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing about it is we know that she's going to go through. Ultimately, she's going to go through something, right? Because I mean, every
Mhm.
hero needs to, right? Um, but it's just so establishing what her baseline is in terms of what you should expect, and then what she has to go through. I mean, I think that just makes it all the better. Um, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm incredibly familiar with the comics or the She-Hulk character, but two
Me
things
neither.
that happen, right? Two things that happen. I mean, the producers, directors, showrunners, the first thing they did was explain what this show is going to be about. They said it was going to be a legal comedy. So you knew what you were getting into when you started, right? And as far as, staying close to the character's comics roots, I mean, she's a fourth wall breaker. She's funny, she's snarky, she's all those things. And the show has delivered all those things. And so to have people that are sort of pushing back for whatever reason, I don't see how you possibly could, knowing what you were getting into and knowing what the character is about. It just seems strange to me.
First of all, I have a, history of liking smart, funny, legal comedies slash dramas, as you might notice by the life size cutout of Jessica Pearson behind me. But even if like the genre is kind of like different strokes for different folks, like this has such a fun blend of different guest stars, different genres. And we saw a really good example of that, I thought, this week with Wong showing up. Now, Wong is not a character that we immediately associate with comedy. We last saw him in the Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch movie, and he was not necessarily busting one liners at that time. And he shows up here. And what I thought was really smart about his characterization is that they didn't try to make him funny. They didn't try to write him out of character and suddenly put him in a legal drama setting and have him be this like sharp, witty, sarcastic lawyer. Instead, they kind of buddy him up with Madison, and the two combined just create a very funny dynamic that anyone alone wouldn't necessarily fit the show. And it was just such a like it was so, not to call it formulaic, but only like a formula in like a mathematic sense of like two negatives making a positive, like two things that wouldn't be right for this show and would seem kind of like either too cheesy or too stoic. You put the two together and suddenly you have this like perfect chemical reaction. And speaking of chemistry, I think they have great chemistry. What a wonderful ship. 100 out of 10. What are your thoughts on that?
I would take it a step further and about what who Wong is or who he has been in the MCU. He's obviously not the joke maker. He's more than anything the straight man. And right now, and he's this sort of exasperated Sorcerer Supreme straight guy
Mhm.
who first has to deal with Jen Walters, She-Hulk, and that whole situation. So you see what sort of issues that he has to deal with as Sorcerer Supreme, having to try to navigate the legal system, as it were, right? So there's the humor that you get from that. And then, of course, I mean, just the humor that he got with Madison. I mean, that was just sort of taking it over the top. So I think, like you said, they know what their characters do well, and they put them in situations to exceed, like a good coach would do it, like a with an athlete, right? You put them in a position to succeed, and that's what they're doing. I will tell you though, I do have one little niggle, one little nitpick,
Okay.
and that is, and maybe it's by design in terms of what this character or who this character is about when I'm talking about Jen Walters and She-Hulk, but to a great degree, even 4 episodes in, it feels like, in terms of the narrative of her life, it feels like she is not the one driving the car. She feels like a passenger to a
Mm.
little bit of a degree. And that might be on purpose, sort of trying to highlight the sort of um, the path that a woman in this sort of world or in this sort of industry has to sort of navigate. She's not always the one in control, right? But I just feel like I would appreciate more of the spotlight placed on her in terms of telling us what her story is. And it's just a minor, very small, almost insignificant thing. But if I had to say that there's one thing that I have an issue with, and I guess what I'm ultimately saying is I would really, really, really like to see more of Tatiana Maslany like being the focus. And so if that's a nitpick, that's one to have, right?
I would agree with that. And I think that's a fair nitpick because we can't learn about a character until we see them make choices. We can only learn so much by seeing them react to things. We have to see them be proactive in some way to learn what they want. And we have at this point mostly seen her react to things. Granted, it's early, and I think they're trying to set it up as sort of like this generational, like early career type of girl where she feels like she has no agency and has no choice, and she takes this position because there are no other options, and she presents herself as She-Hulk at her work because she feels there are no other options, and she's really selling out her identity in doing so. But it seems like intentional, but eventually I do think we'll get to know her. This is just, but that's a very fair nitpick.
It's the only one I have.
My only nitpick is that there's not a Madison and Wongers spinoff yet. I think that would be funny, like just like a true comedic, like 100% comedy, not dramedy, but like 100% comedy. Like give them a 4 episode, 15 minutes per episode web series thing where they do some like dumb little heist. I think that would be so cute.
See, I was going to say the same thing. I wouldn't need like a 6 episode, like 45-minute show, but like 10-minute hits, like 4 or 5 of those interspersed. I love those. I think that would be perfect.
And then have like some very A-list Marvel star cameo in it for like absolutely no reason. Like Scarlet Witch shows up or Thor shows up or just something where like, you're like, you got Thor for Madison and Wongers? Really?
I mean, let's be real. Wong can go wherever he wants, so everyone's fair game, right? He can bring anyone they want.
So
I
fair.
mean, I mean, if you ask me, and I know they won't do it because I mean they pretty much, I would imagine they have big plans for like Deadpool, but that would be like a great place for Deadpool to show up. Like, what the
Yes.
hell is this, right? So yeah,
That would be very good. Deadpool and Scarlet Witch, not because she's a fit on the comedic end, but just because I know, like, based on the contents of WandaVision, that she can do comedy. Like, not just Elizabeth Olsen can do comedy, but like Wanda can act within a comedic setting. And Thor, and I don't know, maybe like Miss Marvel.
I mean, I'm just thinking of like some scene with Scarlet Witch, and Madison see each other for the first time. And I don't even know who would need to deliver the line, but somebody would have to say, I don't even know who you are.
You
Somebody,
know,
that would be perfect.
I'm going to go ahead and bring Kate back on screen. I had taken her off so she could be excused from the She-Hulk conversation since she's not current. But just know, as you all do know, without even having seen her, that immediately she perked up as soon as Wanda and Elizabeth Olsen were both mentioned.
You didn't have to call me out quite so correctly.
Well, Stormy in the chat says, hi, everyone. Hi, Stormy. I could talk forever about She-Hulk, but there are several other things we need to catch up on because it has been a while. Now, Kate, I want to go to you since I have you on screen and since we are already happening to mention Wanda. One of the things that I know you maybe not watched, but kind of thought through and talked through this week was a new Wanda theory, which I am not yet privy to. So talk to us about that, and we'll just kind of go round robin, and I'll go to Carey next on what he watched. It'll be very kindergarten and cute.
Okay. Yeah, so I, a couple days ago, messaged both of them and basically said, for Critical Role, one of the characters is going to be the best live, well, not live, but like best adaptations that I've ever seen of WandaVision, or Wanda. And the only adaptation I've ever seen is MCU, and it's mainly because it's so inconsistent that there's problems. But the whole arc of this character is following that. And so I kind of just really wanted to get everybody caught up and understand why what has happened this past week was so, one, devastating, and two, so amazing and like really thought-provoking. We've kind of hit in Critical Role this campaign the 30s, and the 30s are historically where shit hits the fan. The whole campaign, they've been like following kind of this aspect of discovering this missing part of yourself. Like that's a large portion of all of the characters, and a lot of it always has to do with the tiny little red moon that's creepy and is haunted, Brutus.
Can I interrupt with something that has to do with the 30s?
Yes.
Okay, so as Kate mentioned, we really recently went to DragonCon, and I ended up attending a DragonCon panel on the latest Downton Abbey movie, and they were talking about how, like, if this progresses, we're going to see the characters from Downton Abbey be in the 30s, and we can't do that because the 30s were so depressing, which is like super fair. Like, okay, I get it. But they were like, they already dealt with this idea of like the family having financial struggles, like the family on Downton Abbey and like losing the house. So they'd be rehashing the same old story if it was in the 30s. I was like, wait, but you wouldn't have to do the same thing because this is a very rich and well-connected family. So what you could actually explore is them in the 30s profiting off of everybody else's downfall and the ethical ramifications of that as somebody who is high up in the journalism space and is also well-connected to a rich family, and somebody who is owner of these like huge estates and is also well-connected to like the filming industry in the 20s becoming 30s, whatever. And they could deal with this, like, we think we're so great and we're helping society, but society is collapsing and we're just like getting richer. And I just think that'd be really interesting. Okay, proceed. Critical Role in the 30s.
Yeah, so they're all kind of connected to the moon Brutus. So like there's all 7 characters have some connection. So there's Chetney, he is the old man gnome, he's also a werewolf, obvious connection there. There's Ashton, who is a punk rock man, literally, and he has a lot of missing memories and is, while very like tough and rumble, is also very protective of the group. FCG is a robot therapist who has like a lot of memories missing, is actually a Trojan horse and is an assassin from ancient times. You have Fern, who is basically chaos incarnate. She's from the Feywild. She is our first confirmed Druidist-born, which means you were born under a flare. And she is finding her parents after so many years. And then there's Aurum. So these are the 3 characters we're about to talk about that are really important. So Aurum is a halfling fighter from the Era Shard. Now, if you remember Vox Machina, that is led by Kiva.
Mm-hmm.
So he is now on a mission to find the assassins who killed his husband. And he is stumbling onto it as we speak. He is kind of the moral compass of the group and is really there to kind of be a steadying force. And then there's Laudna. So Laudna was one of the dead people hanging in the sun tree. The sun tree. And she was the one that represented Vex. And now she is resurrected and is a warlock to Delilah as her patron.
Is she the one representing Wanda in this theory?
No.
Okay, keep going.
So, so she has evil Delilah in her head. And then we have Imogen. Imogen is Wanda in this situation. So Imogen is witchy, sad cowgirl.
Okay.
She has
cowgirl Wanda suddenly. Okay.
Yes,
interesting. Go
suddenly,
on.
So Imogen can't stop hearing people's thoughts. Like it's just always there. And she also is now haunted by these really cryptic, terrifying dreams of like a red storm consuming her. And this dark army of soldiers are like approaching her in a creepy way. She's kind of dealing with also becoming the de facto leader of the group, even though she's highly introverted, and dealing with like her more brutal battle tactics and based on her wrath and her emotional turmoil, while also dealing with the fact that she has a strong head on her shoulders and is really good at social manipulation and managing a group of really unique people.
Are they actively making her like a Wanda parallel?
No, they're not trying to actively.
Okay.
They've mentioned actually more Dark Phoenix, but there's clear parallels with what they're doing, and the longer it goes on, the more and more the parallels keep kind of showing. So the situation they kind of find themselves in right now is they were in a different city than where they normally are, trying to extricate a criminal. When they basically go undercover into this gang compound, they get the criminal, they are almost out scot-free, and then the leader of the gang confronts them as they're trying to leave. Their name is Odahan, and Odahan is the same person that's been in Imogen's dreams. They're also the same person that killed Orum's husband, and they're all piecing this together immediately. So Odahan is clearly targeting, clearly knows who Imogen is angry to see her, and is like brutally killing the rest of the group. They don't have enough energy to fight, so they try to run. But Odahan slaughters them. It is a massacre. I mean, almost everybody goes down at least once. And Imogen basically tries to lure her away, tries to get her to follow her so the rest of them can get free. Odahan doesn't take the bait. Odahan starts to kill her friends, and by kill, I mean full permanent kill, no coming back from that. So Orym goes down and Fern goes down. Now, Orym has been like a big brother to Imogen for a long time. In this story, they have a really special bond. He's been calling her on, he's been making her be a better person and be a better leader, even though she doesn't quite always realize that she is the leader. And so that's already killing her and killing Imogen emotionally, and she's trying to resist this pull of darkness, that there's a pull of magical power that she's been fighting because she's afraid that if she gives in, she's giving into evil, an innately evil magic. So she's been resisting it. And then Laudna is kind of in the next targets. Now, Laudna and Imogen have a really special bond. They've known each other the longest. They've helped each other out with their troubles the most. They're very clearly best friends, and possibly more if this story can go on. And Odahan stabs Laudna, and Imogen falls to the ground, screams, weeps out, power explodes from her body. The city around her is crushed and decimated. It all goes red and white, and we don't know if Laudna is dead. And we are told that Orym and Fern are permanently dead. Now, if you know anything about D&D, permanently dead is not actually technically permanently dead. We can cast Revivify and bring them back, but there's a lot of technicalities with that. And so we're sitting here watching so many different possibilities unfold, and that's where it ends. Um, so, like, as it goes forward, there's the possibility that Orem won't come back because Liam, who plays Orem, is Tragedy King. He enjoys a good heartbreak and will
Does
refuse to come back.
Wanda and the connection to Wanda tell us what happens next? Like, has that informed your theory as to what will
It's
happen
informed
in?
some
Is
of
the
my
next
theory.
like are the installments weekly?
Yes, so the next installment comes up tomorrow.
Okay.
Um, so then we also know metatextually speaking that deaths has happened before in these games, but the DM normally is very like soft about it and like cries with the party. No, he was like happy, gleeful. So clearly there's more to what's happened than just oopsie, I died.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the theories kind of circulating now about the possibility that Imogen has the ability to teleport them or reverse time, which isn't exactly what Wanda has, but it's that level of power that implies something close to Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of what's all tying it together to me is if the party dies, if everybody is decimated, we're going to get to see Imogen go through the grieving process a lot like Wanda does, and is going to inexplicably blame herself for everything, even though she tried to stop it. She might not have known what to do, but she couldn't stop it, and she will grieve and she will blame herself um, going forward and
Mm-hmm.
have to deal with coming up that way. If they do survive, then we'll get what the Avengers and should have done. Um, what Vision and Clint kind of tried to do on occasion for Wanda, which was just be there for her, don't blame her at every mistake, and try to support her and her understanding of the powers that she doesn't understand as she develops. So either way, we're going to get her developing in a more refined way because obviously she basically has a head writer who very much cares about her development, her growth. And we're going to get the care necessary to cohesively tell either a recovery from a loss like that of that magnitude, the fall to evil, which would be very easy to see, or her being able to recover her friends and then help her learn to master harness and accept her powers rather than fear them.
I can't wait to hear what happens next. I am every time you say Imogen, I translate it to Wanda in my head, which may
Mm-hmm.
not be helping me follow the story, but is very interesting to me personally. Um, there is something we all have watched, which has had some, just speaking of what happens next, which has had some movement, and that is Only Murders in the Building. Last time we talked, they were about to go into the finale, and since then we've watched it. But somebody, everybody point at Carey, has not watched more episodes. Carey, what have you watched since the in the last month since we last talked? And how is it more important than Only Murders in the Building, other than She-Hulk, which is obviously like the most important?
I believe me, I wish the answer to this question was better, but I went down a Titans rabbit hole.
Oh, that's a
I
good rabbit
watched
hole.
the I I wish it was a better rabbit hole. Um, I watched the first and second seasons. It's a little slow. The first season in particular, it's a little slow.
Okay.
Um, and uh, there are a lot of head scratching moments in Titans that I mean I don't necessarily want know if I want to get into them all. Let's just
We'll
say
get
I was
into
less
Stargirl
than
instead
whelmed.
then.
Yes. Yay.
Kate and I
So,
were at Dragon Con and Stargirl guests were at Dragon Con. We did not go see them, but like we were in the same space. Sorry, please
well,
continue.
breathing the same air as Stargirl folks, I mean, it's a pretty big deal, right?
Right.
Um, so, if you're familiar with this season, it is all about a murder mystery, and I am a sucker for murder mysteries when they are done correctly and they are fun and that sort of thing. Um, And so that's what we have, and that's one of the things I really like about Stargirl is each season has sort of a theme. First
Mm-hmm.
season was sort of like JSA, well, new JSA origins, right? Basically, how this group of kids comes together to become the new JSA. And then the second season it was a horror theme. It was a horror arc, which
Mm-hmm.
and they committed to, which was fantastic. And so now we have the murder mystery, which is a who done it sort of situation. And what
Kate,
makes
is
it
this
even
convincing
better?
you to watch it? Say yes.
Sorry, but I'd have to
Murder
watch the first
mystery?
season. Maybe, probably not.
Oh, try harder. Okay, Carrie, please continue.
Wait. You've seen Knives Out, right? The movie?
Me,
Yeah,
yes.
I've seen
Kate,
Knives
you've
Out.
seen Knives Out, haven't you?
Yeah,
Did you like it to any degree?
I liked Knives Out. Yeah.
Well, let's just say, and it hasn't fully sort of borne that out yet, but the inspiration for the season that we're in has been Knives Out. So if there's any sort of interest to you, then this is an opportunity to sort of pick up and come on board.
I
Um,
feel like the addition of Joel McHale is appropriate given that theme. I feel like he's a good fit for that theme as well as, kind of playing off this version of playing off of Courtney's sort of like, I don't know, I don't want to say daddy issues, but like daddy issues. Like he's a good sort of like quirky, non-paternal, but still like, oh, is he my dad type of thing to add to the show. You know what I mean?
yeah. And yes, I certainly do. And in most situations, you have a murder mystery if it's sort of like a sort of superhero show or whatever the case may be, it's important that you have like a sort of a full roster of who your suspects can be. And
Mm-hmm.
and one of the better things about the show where it is now is that you have a group of suspects who aren't just the bad guys, right? Because you have bad guys or quote unquote bad guys who are trying to reform. You have good guys who have shown us that they have sort of like some dark tendencies every now and again, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it opens up the roster for who could have done it. Could have been someone we've seen already. It could be someone that we haven't seen. Um, but it's not like, well, you can automatically rule certain people out. I think everyone's a suspect, to use that cliche.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, I mean, that's what's fun about what this season is and what it can be, as long as the execution comes off. And I sort of have two trains of thought when it comes to it, right? The first, well, maybe even three, right? The first train of thought is, okay, this could be truly, legitimately like some sort of lone villain antagonist who has pulled off this murder.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could sort of go the Murder on the Orient Express sort of situation where spoiler alert, right? There, everyone
Everybody
had
is
a
the hero.
hand in it, right?
Spoiler alert on Agatha
Right,
Christie.
right, exactly. Or they could sort of go the Knives Out route and sort of pull like some sort of strange twist out of it all, right? And so that's what sort of got has me intrigued. And the fact that it's only 13 episodes means that you can tell a tight story and you don't have to worry about, hey, this is just a bunch of filler to get to the next thing. So that's what I really like, and that's what I really like about this season and where they're headed.
This whole conversation has got me really excited for Knives Out 2, which I think premiered at some film festival this weekend or whatever. So I'm sure we'll be seeing some reviews. I'm so excited. And I fully intend, mark my words, to cosplay a character from this movie. I wanted to, back when the first movie came out, I wanted to cosplay the Toni Collette character. I read a tweet about a New Yorker article lady who like danced like this, you know? I feel like that was fitting. I didn't do that, but I will not make the same mistake twice. Um, okay, so I'm gonna briefly, can I give spoilers on the Kevin Can Fuck Himself show? If I can, I just want to briefly mention that as like the first what I watched this week. Spoilers,
Go
yes.
right ahead.
Okay,
Go
Go.
ahead.
so
Go.
season one, and you should still watch it anyways, by the way. It's hilarious. It's a good dark dramedy, blah, blah, blah. It's funny. It's this cool, you know how, well, I keep using WandaVision as an example, but what can we do? It's the pinnacle of television. You know how it would go between genres, sometimes within episodes, but certainly across episodes. Kevin Can Fuck Himself does that, where it goes between like a half-hour comedy with a laugh track and like a dark dramedy, which is really great. The first season was all about her planning to and trying to kill her husband, which was so fun and fresh. But the second season is a totally different plot line now. Now she's trying to fake her own death. I'm loving it. She's not trying to kill her husband at all, even though like he's still just as bad. They don't have him on a redemption arc at all. He's still terrible, but they kind of are humanizing him in very, very tiny, subtle ways. If they redemption arc him, like I will pitchfork and riot, but I don't think they're doing that. They're just kind of humanizing him because it's not like leading up to his death this season, or maybe it is, but like that's not currently the point. But I find that to be so fun. They're not just like stretching this out. It's like 5 seasons of her trying to kill Kevin, and then in the end he finally dies, or like they're actually doing different plot lines each season. 100 out of 10. Watch this show. It's fantastic. Kate, I happen to know something you watched that you don't want to talk about, but I'm going to make you talk about it anyways. Since we last chatted, or did you watch The Eternals before we last chatted?
Oh, we did. I didn't watch it before we chatted, I don't think.
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't
I
think we
watched
chatted
it
about
pretty
it.
last minute.
Yeah, I think you did wait till the last minute. So since we last chatted, Kate watched The Eternals. Now, Carey, I think you and I chatted a bit about The Eternals when it first came out, and when I think, or maybe it was just me talking to myself. I don't know. Did you watch it, Carey?
I have seen it.
You have? Okay, I think we
Um,
chatted about it, but memory's the first thing to go, and grandma's old, so bear
I
with
think
me.
you guys
But
did because I remember you guys both talking about Athena and liking Athena, and that
oh
was all I remember.
yes, 100 out of 10. Again, love her. Kate watched it and had an interesting perspective, and I just want you to be able to share your thoughts, just to offer a different view, and dare I say, a younger view, which was an ongoing complaint at it wasn't a complaint. It was just, oh, well, let me put it as a positive. I appreciated that Kate spoke on some panels at DragonCon to bring a younger perspective, and The Eternals was such a fun example of that. So, Kate, would you like to summarize your thoughts?
My thoughts are a little bit lukewarm, honestly. I kind of saw it and I was like, all right, that was 2 hours of my life I will not be getting back. But it was, to me,
At
there
this
was
point,
so
it's like
much
4,
potential.
based on not just the time you've spent
Yes,
watching it, but the time you've been forced to speak on it.
talk about it. Yes. Well, so there's parts of it that had so much promise, which is what actually kind of did give me irritation, was they brought so much potential with pretty much every character had a complex question they could have been telling as their story arc. But what you get when you introduce 10 characters that we've never met before, plus side characters that we've never met before in a movie that's only 2 hours long, dealing with an apocalyptic size event, following another apocalyptic size event without maybe a year in between, is not enough development for me to care about anybody, and not enough tension for me to be invested or concerned about the scale of the story.
Mm.
Yeah, the kind of meta reason as to why the tension doesn't work is because obviously Endgame just happened. The world's not gonna end a year later. But also, I don't think they really developed the scale or the like true intensity of it as well. There was supposed to be an ensemble, but there was also clearly like 2 or 3 people that were supposed to be the main characters within the Eternals kind of family, but they wanted to introduce us to all of them and make us think they were all quirky and fun. And because of that, we didn't get to like really get into the meat of their character in any of them. And I think sadly that's kind of represented most specifically in Cersei, Athena, and Druig. Uh, Druig is the guy that starts the commune. I think he was the one that had the most potential to go evil, but had a really interesting like story potential. They just didn't really explore all that much. Cersei was kind of the main character, but you didn't really realize that until halfway through the movie that she was supposed to be the main character, and that's simply because she was supposed to be the one that made the right choice. But you don't get any developmental reason as to why she randomly has the power to stop the problem. And then Thena had so much story potential. Again, the concept of this renowned strategist who is known not only for her like skills in battle, but her skills in planning for battle, her mind, and losing that to the memories of other lives crashing in on itself. And we didn't really get time to explore that as a concept and as a character arc either. So it all just felt overstuffed, and I didn't really get to care about any of it.
What I really appreciated hearing Kate talk about it, like kind of in more depth at Dragon Con, and I've talked about it with her as well, sort of offline, is you have a very constructive perspective on like how this could be better, and specifically how this could be better if they're trying to get, as I think they were with the Eternals, kind of an all ages or even younger audience. We have some younger characters who carry some younger themes throughout this, but for you it didn't work. So can you talk a little bit briefly, and then I promise I will stop making you talk about the Eternals. Can you talk a little briefly about
With
what you think they could do to appeal to younger people, Marvel in general?
more shirtless men. I'm kidding. No, that's a joke that Carey will understand. I think if they want us to invest in the stories, I know I'm a particularly person that's driven by characters. I know not everybody is, but that's what I care about. Um, and even if you're more of a plot focused person, you still have to believe that these characters are invested in what they're doing. If without investment, none of this works. The buy-in doesn't work, especially for a story and a genre that requires a lot of kind of letting go of certain facts of nature and reality. Um, so you have to make a really well constructed character and character motivations for me to care about this very fantastical option presented to them. Um, and that's kind of always been my problem with Marvel anyway, is that Marvel pretends like they've got a really well developed character that they're going to give to you, and it's really kind of half baked at best.
Mm-hmm.
And the buy-in typically has an issue with that. That's always been my issue with Marvel. I don't invest in the characters enough because there are so many of them, and this movie was just kind of the thing I can point to as the kind of titular point of the problem of we're going to introduce all these characters and you're not going to care about any of them, but you're going to be told you have to. And I know part of the issue kind of is the concept of the Eternals in general, but they could have kind of flipped the script and made us invest in them kind of going against the principles that they were placed on Earth to fight for.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have made that buy-in much more worthwhile. And instead, it was kind of a race to the end for 2 hours.
So well, I think just more like Marvel hears and makes that change. I will jump to equal quality TV and briefly mention that The Bachelorette is airing. The finale has not aired yet. It is next week. We had the second to the finale episode this week, and by like the middle of this second to the last episode, they were already down to just one guy left each. There's 2 bachelorettes, and next week they're gonna have a whole like 2-hour episode where once again they are already down to just one guy each. So I don't know, guys. I think this might end badly, because if it was going to end well and those 2 guys were going to propose to the, respective bachelorettes and ride off into the sunset, I kind of feel like it couldn't cover 2.5 hours of television. Stay tuned. You'll be so excited to hear more about that next week. The
So
other thing
hold
I was
on
going to
for a second.
mention, who here is watching House of Dragon? Just
I
me?
What
You
have
was
guys
not.
that,
love
Carrie?
yourself? That's crazy.
I can.
No, go
Carrie
ahead. I'm
was trying
sorry.
to
Go
say
ahead.
something.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
No, I haven't watched House of Dragon yet. It's on my to watch list, but I haven't had a chance yet.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Would does it matter that I've never ever seen 5 seconds of Game of Thrones to watch House of Dragons?
In my opinion, doesn't matter because I watched the first 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, and I quit after the second season. I believe Game of Thrones went on for like 6 or 7 seasons. A ton happened since then. I forgot almost everything in the first 2 seasons, anyways. It was really easy for me to watch this show and follow along without really knowing much. I mean, you hear everything online. Like, I know the characters' names. I know there's like a Stark house and a Targaryen, like whatever. Like I know the names, but like other than that, like I don't really like know or care. And with this, it's so far I've been easily able to follow along. There was like this. This is not really a spoiler, I don't think, but there's like a Lannister that shows up in this show, and like Lannister is a notable family in Game of Thrones or whatever. And it's like, oh, there's a guy who's a Lannister who is very obviously cast to look like one of the other Game of Thrones characters. Great. And then he's gone in like 2 seconds.
All
Okay, so
right.
I have no doubt that this show will eventually devolve into like complete and utter garbage, and every character that you love is going to do like bad things or have bad things done to them, and everybody's going to be bad, and there is no joy, blah, blah, blah. However, y'all know I hate love triangles, right?
Yes.
Ish, sort of. Okay, there is a love triangle, and it's more like a love pentagon with like there's this girl, her like childhood best friend, this like bad guy who's much older and she shouldn't be with, but like everybody thinks is really hot. He's not hot, but like I get the premise. There's this guy she's gonna be in this like politically motivated marriage with, who she's like basically not met, but he's very hot. So like they're gonna do something with that. And then there's this girl who is her friend, and they have a lot of extremely romantic scenes, and they've put a lot of subtext in that the main character, the girl who is the center of this love pentagon, they've put like a lot of pretty overt like insinuation that she might be like bi or gay or whatever. So like every kind of like trope you can think of is involved in this like love pentagon. It's delicious. It's fantastic. I normally hate this kind of thing, but like go ahead. I don't know. Maybe the bar's just on the floor because I expect the show to be bad and it's been good. But if you are watching it and you're interested in like some fun fantasy ship dynamics, so far they are giving us some stuff till they kill everybody off. I can see you're both very convinced. Okay.
And I just
Last.
had a
Go
question
ahead.
that just popped into my head.
What'd you say?
Kate, I had a question for Kate.
Yes.
Do you
Yeah,
think that do you think that the Eternals would have worked better as say like a 10 episode Disney Plus series?
definitely, absolutely. Don't even have to finish that question. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't even
And what made me
halfway
think
through
of
the
that?
movie, and I was like,
What made me think that was when Cammie was talking about Bachelorette, and it's going to be like what, a 2.5 hour like episode about like four people, and I'm
Yep.
like, we had 10 main characters, and they devoted 2 hours in the movie. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they wish they had rethought that.
And the characters in the Eternal might be a little bit more complicated and with more backstory and interest than the people on The Bachelorette. I don't know. That might be a stretch, but I really feel like maybe.
At least there was a love scene, so there's that, right? I think it's the first MCU love scene that they've probably ever filmed. I'll have to
Yeah.
research that.
it
I'm
was.
sorry, I
I
didn't mean
think
to
that was
interrupt.
something that was brought up. I think that was something that somebody specifically brought up at the panel I was on. So I believe that is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Right.
Well, I know there are a couple other things hanging out on our list, like Carey. I assume you're still working through your Arrow rewatch. We're running short on time. Anything else, Arrow rewatch, or Kate, anything you watched as well that you want to take us out with this week?
I haven't watched anything else really. So.
Well, I do plan to punish myself and start watching Titan season 3, so there's that.
It's not a punishment if you enjoy it. Actually, it might be a punishment if you enjoy it. I don't know. There's sides of the internet that could disagree with me on that one. That was funny to only me, but that's good enough.
No.
Listen, this whole episode, I've been hearing an echo of my voice in my ear, and it's interfering with like my literal brain cells. Like I cannot string together a full sentence at a decent pace and also like look at faces and also look at the agenda and the notes or whatever. So the fact that I've been even moderately coherent is a feat of modern I don't know, I can't end this sentence because of the voice in my ear. Thank you all for joining me this week. Information for Carey and Kate, I gestured the wrong direction, is in the description down below. And join us again in 2 weeks where we will be chatting about the near finale of She-Hulk, possibly House of Dragon if I haven't quit it yet. The Handmaid's Tale final season. Some of the episodes are out already, but we'll be about halfway through at that point. And who knows what else. And almost definitely an update, I hope, on Kate's Critical Role journey. Bye!
Bye.